Hey guys, it's Linda Winter with another Winter Designs template. Now this is a great project. I have had this template forever and I haven't done a video on this. I've had little snippets that I've shown it in my Facebook giveaways and things like that because I love the idea of this, but I never really got going on it. When it came out, I had a bunch of other things going on, and it's like other things that gets put on the back burner and you just don't get to it. So I want to show you the right way to make with this template these eye masks. This is an eye mask. This is the case, I call it the pillowcase, and inside when I open this up it has the pillow insert. This insert, when I pop that out, this is stuffed with rice, but I'll give you some options for stuffing. But this guy right here, when I bring this in, you can see how this is made from this, where that line is. That line on the template is engraved in there, but I've gone in and used one of our metallics to go highlight that. We've got silver and gold. You can use a Sharpie, but Martelli sells those metallics. But that right there is the pillowcase. This insert that you'll stuff. We can put this in the microwave, we can put this in the freezer, and I'll talk about what you do and don't do. But this piece right here, this is the pillowcase. Think about your pillow and the pillowcase that you put it in. Pillow that you buy that you don't really want touching your face. You want to have a pillowcase for it. That's what this is. And when we look at this piece right here, this is folded and sewn into this seam right here. So you can imagine how this came from this right here. This piece here, that's piece one, and then there's piece two. That piece two, you can see how there's a seam right here. That's from here, and again, it's basically this, but just one of these. So this was made from an idea that a customer of mine had. Renee Gaines, Renee is a longtime customer and a longtime friend. Renee made this one here, and she sent me an insert, and she said, make a template for this, and she actually gave me the cardboard for it, and there were two pieces, and I thought, hey, let's make it from the one template. Well, Renee gave this to me, and I made them, and I've shown them, and I did it totally wrong. Here's what I did. This is what I did. So this guy from here and this guy from here, and I just sewed them together, stuffed the pillowcase inside of there and folded that down. Duh, Renee's idea of stitching it in the seams makes all the difference in the world. So I'm going to show you the right way to do this. It's about time, right, Renee? Thank you very much for coming up with this. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to use the no-slip template, this material on the back side. You can see how it grabs that fabric, so when I go to cut, everything is going to be cut accurately, consistently. Right inside of here, there's a curve. So you can use the 28 millimeter, but you can also use the 45 millimeter. So this is our left-handed rotary cutter. This is a right-handed rotary cutter. So you can use either the 28 or the 45. I'm going to show you how to cut. You may or may not cut all of that. There's one area where it's a little tougher to cut. So grab a pencil so you can use that for marking. I'll turn this over so you can see. Grab a pencil or whatever marking tool that you have. So if you need to go cut out by freehand with scissors or with the rotary cutter. But we're going to use this template. So let's talk about what we need. I need to have one piece that's cut from this whole template. Then I need to have one piece that's cut from this. Now if we're not doing a lining, which this we don't really need to do, this is the front side, this is the wrong side. This is the front side folded over from here. This is the wrong side. So there's no lining on this. If you wanted to do a lining, the only reason I would recommend you do a lining is if you're using a lighter weight fabric or a white fabric, and then you have the insert, this pillow insert, in a different color. This is what's going to be touching your face. So whatever this fabric is, this should feel good. This is what's going to be on your face, so this material here needs to be soft and comfy and even something cute if you wanted to do that as well. This material here, this fabric, this needs to be microwave safe if it's going to go in the microwave. It also means, when I say microwave safe, 100% cotton fabric, no metallics. No metallics, because those metallics might spark in the microwave. Also, whatever we put inside of here, and I'll talk about all, not all the options, but I'll give you some options, things that I recommend. This here can not only go in the microwave, but it can also go in the freezer too. So if it goes in the freezer, then it doesn't matter what the fabric is. Why would I want it in the freezer? You know, if you've got a migraine, you might like cold rather than heat. So it really does depend on why you're using it. You can use this to take a nap, to help you sleep, to block out light, but it's also great for migraines. It's great for sinus issues, especially sinus, because of the weight. This weight sitting right there, ooh, already I can feel how that would help with your sinuses when you've got a cold or whatever, so that weight. All right, and again, I'll talk about the materials. Okay, so there's a unique way that we're gonna be sewing these together, but let's do the cutting first. So let's go through some fabric choices. I'm gonna get these 2 rotary cutters out of the way since I don't need them. I'm gonna be using Tula Pink's fabric. I love this stuff. Now this is on the outside, so this is gonna be showing through your eyeballs when they're closed. So if this is too busy for you, if your eyelids, when you've got them closed, you know, they still see things, this may be too busy, but I just think this is so cute. Also, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna make this fabric here and this fabric here the same. I love that Renee didn't do that. Can you see how here she's got one fabric and then this piece here is the same. So there's the fold. So you may want to do something like that, especially the first time making these, just so you won't get confused, because it is a little bit confusing the way that you do. But I'm going to be using this fabric, the Tula Pink, and this. So this is the lining fabric here that I'm going to be using for the pillowcase insert, this guy here. So I'm going to put those aside, but I want to talk about fabrics for a minute. So this little cute polka dot fabric, I love the little white polka dots there, but if I have got the insert, if this is my insert, which I really like to have a white or a cream or a muslin or something like that for the insert, if I make that out of this and I stuff this with our various stuffings, most likely those stuffings are going to show through. You can't see here, unless I really pull back, those grains of rice that are there. But if I've got rice or beans, I don't recommend these kidney beans because they're so big. But imagine those kidney beans here. You can really, you know, imagine seeing those kidney beans. So if you are going to use a white fabric like this, then you may want to do a lining for this, or you may just want to add a layer of some kind of batting or something too. And that batting will make it a little bit softer on your face. But I love the idea of doing a white for the pillowcase itself, just like our pillowcases are normally white. But I also love the idea for guys using flannel, like I've got here, so a little bit more, you know, hardcore for the guy that might think it's kind of silly to put one of these over his eyes at night. Philip always goes to bed really early. I'm always watching TV. The light bothers him like crazy, so I'm going to be making him an eye mask out of this material because then he might actually use it. This is flannel, so flannel is great too because this feels really good on your face. You can do flannel for the outside, you can do flannel for the inside, like I've done here. Here's a pillow insert here, the pillowcase insert. This is flannel. You just want to make sure that it slips in easily. Sometimes flannel will want to grab on whatever, so I'd recommend for the insert that you do a cotton rather than the flannel. The flannel is what's going to be touching your face. But then I also want to show you this idea because I love the idea of making a ton of these and kind of the retro idea. So I want you all to take a look at this and think, what was this? Can you all see what that was and get the idea? A man's sleeve or a woman's sleeve. This is a sleeve from a button down. So you can see right here when I flip it over, there's the button. So these sleeves are perfect for this. This is a flannel shirt. You've got a flannel shirt that's got stains, it's got rips, it's got whatever on it. So this is perfect for this. And you can make from one sleeve this guy here. If I fold that fabric, here's one, so I can do that, and then this piece, there's enough to do here. That can be the outside. So think about all the recycling projects that you can grab from your closets, all those things that you were donating to Goodwill. Those things all can be put to really good use for this. Okay, so let's start talking about cutting. All right, first thing I want to do is get my fabric lined up. This line here, I need to square off here because from here to here is going to be just the piece here, this piece down here. So what I need to do first is square this off. So I'm going to place this on my map. I'm going to find a line. I'm going to scoot it over just a little bit and see that blue line right there? we're going to use that to square off. I want to make sure that I have enough fabric here. So I'm going to line this up. You can use any ruler that's a no-slip ruler. You notice here, basically, I'm looking along here, I'm looking along here. I really would grab a longer ruler, but if this is all you have of ours, do you see what I did? I started here on the edge, I went backwards and forwards, and then I just went straight through. This guy here, when I line that up, that's giving me a straight edge that I'm going to line up with this. When I place this down, can you see how I'm looking on my mat? I want to make sure that this fabric and this fabric here are lined up with this line on my mat. Any line on my mat will do. Just want to make sure that I get that lined up, and when I place this down, I want to make sure these are all lined up. So we're going to cut. That's our no-slip material that's working like magic. And notice here, right here, you can see even when I lined that up, it's not exactly straight right to that seam. So I'm going to double check. And I probably didn't cut perfectly straight. That's okay. We're going to cut that off. I turn my template. What I love about this is when I turn that template, that fabric stays. Okay, so we're going to cut to here. When I get to here, I'm going to scoot it and get it just a little bit in better position, and then I'm going to cut. Now, I don't know if you can tell, I'm hitting this right here. So what I want to do is go ahead and angle a little bit, and I'm just going to cut off that fabric. And do you see how that cut everything except that little thread there? Because I cut here and then I stopped and then I repositioned my hand. I normally say get that blade nice and straight, but on this, we've got to tilt it a little bit, not a whole lot. If you tilt a whole lot, do you see how my hand is really tilted? You're not going to cut any of that fabric at all. But when I go ahead and tilt and then reposition and cut off, that allows me to cut inside of there. Again, you might think you need the 28, but the 45 millimeter will work just fine for that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut. That is our first piece. This little guy here turns into, again, this piece here. Now you could actually cut all of these at the same time if you wanted to. When I placed this on, I could have laid this fabric here, make sure that I had that lined up with that. I don't want to take the time to do that. It's just a whole lot easier for me to do this piece all at the same time. Now, I say normally 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You can cut up to 10 layers. I like to do 8 normally. But right in here, I'm not going to be stacking 8 layers. So I might do 4 layers. If you're going to be making these and giving these as gifts, you can stack up 4 layers here. And then when you're doing this piece, 4 layers here, and just be careful right inside of here. All right, so what are we going to do? We're going to do the same thing. So get that rotary cutter open, cut, turn the template, cut. I'm just going to give it kind of a swirl when I get to here, tilt it, and then reposition. We're going to reposition, and we'll see how we did. You can see I've still got just a few threads, so I'm going to go back in there and just tilt it a little bit. And you can see how that allowed me to bring that free. Cut that off, turn the template, and we're going to cut, turn the template, and I'm good to go. I've got my 2 pieces for the pillowcase piece. I need a trash can right down there below me. Don't have one. Okay, so we've got this piece and we've got this piece. We're going to go to the sewing machine in a few minutes and we're going to sew this down, but we're not going to do what I did where we're basically just making this. We're not going to be sewing this down and sewing this down. We're going to do something different the right way that this was designed. Now I want to cut this piece here. This is our pillowcase. So we've got our 2 pieces of fabric. We are going to be sewing right sides together, so I am going to get my fabric right sides together. Now here's the deal about this. If you want to take advantage of the fold of your fabric, you can do that. You can see here, I've stitched mine closed here. But I'm going to take advantage of that fold and I'm going to stitch over here. So what do I want to do? I want to fold my fabric and look at that crease right there. Take the time to press that out. Don't do as I'm doing because this really does make a difference. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at this fold here and I'm looking to make sure I have enough fabric here but not too much. So what are we going to do? We're going to give this a really good finger press because I'm not at the iron. And we're going to put this down and I want that line right there to be on the fold. Now you can use your mat to line this up or you can eyeball it like I'm doing here. And I'm looking at the left side and the right side and I want to make sure that I have enough fabric. Boy, I cut this one close. See how there's hardly any fabric over here and hardly any fabric over here? That's my seam allowance, so I'm going to be okay with that. All right, what we're going to do is square this off or cut this off. There's hardly anything to cut off here. Oops, to cut off here. If y'all are closers, where you close that rotary cutter every time you go to use it, you've got to open it up. See how right there, that's where I'm going to be repositioning that rotary cutter just a little bit. So we're going to get to here, and then I tilt it just a little bit, pull that back. And again, just take your time on this and see how you do. Can you see how I was able to cut all of that off? And then we're going to go right to there. I turn that template, and then one more time. And what this is going to give me is my fold. There's my fold. That's basically this seam that I don't have to worry about sewing. So we're going to sew around here, sew around here, sew around here, sew around here. So a little bit here and a little bit here, and then we'll turn it and we'll stuff it. All right, so we're going to head over to the sewing machine. What I want to do is take the sample, because we're going to kind of zoom out in a minute, and I want to show you how this is done. So let me grab these 2 pieces of fabric. You know what, let's do this here rather than the sewing machine so y'all can see. Okay, here is my pillowcase. All right, this is my pillow. We're going to get that out of the way. All right, so I've done a pin for you because I want you to see, look what I did right here. I just did kind of a top stitching, folded it down, did a top stitching. Do you see how this doesn't line up exactly? This right here and this line here, they're not consistent. I'm okay with that, but you know, if I'm going to be making these and selling these, maybe not. What I want to show you though is we're going to fold that down and do a top stitch, and then we'll fold it down and do a top stitch again. We want this side and that side to be more lined up evenly. But more importantly, I want you to see that this piece here, that's the bigger piece. That's the piece that we're looking at here. That's the piece we're going to fold down. Now, I do want to look at my mat, and I'm going to line this up here. I'm going to line this up here. I'm looking at these little points here and these little points here, so that when I fold this fold, I want to make sure that that's nice and straight. Use whatever line you want on your mat. I'm going to just give this a little bit of a finger press. And what I'm looking at is, we're going to bring that up a little bit. I'm looking at over here. See how that one's much higher than it is here? So we're going to bring this up a little bit. I'm going to hold that down, and we're finger pressing here. And when I fold this up, I want to make sure that I have enough room here and enough room here for that to go inside. Let's take a look at this so it makes sense. When I fold this back, do you see how that amount of space right there that I have there, that overlap, that's basically what we're looking at right here. So when we get over to the sewing machine, we're going to do that same thing here. We're going to top stitch this down, top stitch that down. By the way, this is a really great serger project. How would I really make these? On the serger. Why? Because this folding down that I'm doing, the only reason I'm doing that once and then one more time again is I don't want raw edges that will start to fall apart. So you could serge this edge. We're going to fold it down, and then this edge right here, this edge here, we're going to fold that down. We're going to top stitch there. So you could serge that, you could serge that, and then sew those sides together. So we're going to do that same process, but right here, this is what we're going to be doing inside. So when we get to this part, we're going to fold that down, we're going to tuck that in, and then we'll sew this all together. Okay, now we're going to head to the sewing machine. I'm going to bring these samples just to remind you when we get over there. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is press. Now remember, if you had a serger and you wanted to do this on the serger, then this whole step here we wouldn't need to do. And I'm just eyeballing it here. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on here, but I just want to give that a little bit of a press. We're going to top stitch that down in just a second, then we're going to fold it down again. So you can do this quick and easy if you want to. You can do the peel off tape if you want to. Whatever it is, you don't even have to do the double. You can just top stitch here. I'm going to top stitch once and then top stitch again, just to help that stay down a little bit. All right, so we're at the sewing machine. We're going to, on the wrong side first, we're going to go ahead and bring this. Okay, we're going to top stitch first, and we're just going to top stitch this down. I'm going to do one, I'm going to do next. The next piece, we're just chain stitching basically. And I can already tell from my pressing that it's not perfectly straight, but guess what? It's an eye mask and no one will know. All right, so I've got big scissors over here. In a minute, I'm going to use those scissors to push as the push, prod, shove, pull, manipulate, flip, turn, because it's only got the one end. But notice what I've done now. I'm going to go ahead and fold this down again. And again, you could take the time to press this. I'm just using this that I've sewn down as kind of my guide. We've done one, we're going to do the next, and then we'll sew these two together. All right, so let's start the pinning process, but again, we're going to be thinking about how we tuck that piece in because that's important. Right at the center down here is the important part here because those need to line up. Pinning to me works better than clipping just a little bit, but I don't have any pins here. Whatever you have will work just fine for what you're doing, and you don't even really have to pin if you're not much of a pinner. I'm just going to put a couple of these clips right here because we are going to stitch this area here, but we want to, before we clip this side, we want to bring this in. Now you have to remember this guy here, this is the outside, it doesn't go on the outside, it goes on the inside, so I'm going to bring that down a little bit. This is where on your mat, using those lines on your mat really is a benefit. I'm going to see if there's anything on the sewing machine that I can use. And I'm just looking right down here and I'm kind of eyeballing. If I fold this over and look to see, what I want to see is this width right here. I can measure basically. I'm almost at 17 here. And I'm almost at 17 here. So those are pretty close. All right, so what are we going to do? I've got this tucked inside. Now I want to clip for sure here and clip for sure over there. Because I've got this opening, I don't need to leave any turning area, so that's no big deal. We're just going to place a clip and we're going to place a clip. What seam allowance do you use? Whatever you're comfortable using. I like to use the edge of my foot. I'm going to get some of these things out of the way. And you may want to have tweezers or something else to kind of push, prod, shove, pull, manipulate, flip, etc. I'm going to start right here on the fold, and I'm actually going to start a little bit further down on that side, and then we'll back tack. And let me get that thread pulled through, and I need to pull up my bobbin thread. And my bobbin is almost empty. So one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of things. Make sure you have a full bobbin. We'll take a couple stitches. I'm going to back tack just a bit. When I get to where that fold is, I'm going to make sure that that fabric doesn't get flipped back. So I'm just holding that carefully. I'm going to grab that clip out of the way already. And when we get to the corner, I'm going to go ahead and go back and forth and back to where about my seam allowance is, and I went a little bit further, so I'll lift up my needle and bring that down. Why do I want to go back and forth? I'm going to be pushing a little bit there, so I don't want to lose that corner. And I'm going to back tack there as well. When I get to where I'm going to pivot just a bit, we'll go ahead and remove that clip so we don't get that in our way. And when I get to the curve, I'm just going to take a moment to kind of make sure if I need to pivot, that I bring that foot up just a little bit, get rid of that clip. And if your seam allowance is not exactly consistent, it's okay. This is the pillowcase that's going to hold that insert that you're going to be stuffing with a bunch of stuff. All right, so right about here, I want to stop. I'm going to back tack just a bit because again, that's my corner. Lift up the foot, pivot. Back tack a little bit, and we are almost done with our pillowcase. Now we're going to snip, snip, snip pretty good around here when we get to this finished part. All right, so the precision scissors are the scissors I like to snip, snip, snip. But I just want to point out this might be a good project for pinking shears. So if you have pinking shears and you don't want to do the snip, 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 that's okay too. So we're going to go in and just clip and clip and clip and clip. If you are going to be doing a whole lot of stuffing, then you may want to, on something that's really, really heavy for the pillowcase insert, you may want to go back and stitch twice. Because this is the pillowcase, it's not really going to have a whole lot of stress on it. But when you get to those pillowcase inserts, stitching twice might not be a bad thing. All right, I'm going to cut off the corner there. I'm going to snip off the corner there. Get rid of those two little guys, and we're going to turn right sides out. And I mentioned my scissors because I'm going to use my bigger scissors to push out. If you don't have chopsticks, if you don't have the wood stiletto, I brought Philip's wood stiletto, and where is it? In the car, downstairs, so I'm not going to run and get it. But Philip's wood stiletto works so well for this. So I'm resorting to scissors because they're not sharp enough that I have to worry about that poking through. All right, we're going to fold this, push that out with my finger, push that out with my finger. I don't need to do any top stitching on here at all. This doesn't require it, but let's take a look at what we've done. So this right here is the pillowcase. So our pillowcase here, and again, I'd probably take the time to press, but look how cute that's going to be. Can't you imagine this being part of a really nice gift? All right, so what do we want to do now? We want to go ahead and do this guy here. Remember, we did our fold as one of our seams. So we're going to go ahead and leave one side open. I'll show you where we do that, but we're going to grab some clips. Now this right here where my rotary cutter didn't cut, that's part of my seam allowance, so I'm going to ignore that completely. We're going to be starting to stitch right here. I'm going to stitch that just maybe 3/4 of an inch, and then stop and then come down here from the edge, maybe an inch here, and then stop and come down here, an inch from the edge, and then we'll stitch all the way around, closing that up. But I want to make sure that everything lines up right because this is the piece that's going to be stuffed. And again, once you put your stuffing in, it's not like it's going to keep that perfect shape because the stuffing is going to take on a shape of its own, but just to line everything up. All right, let's get those clips out of the way. Again, I'm going to stitch about an inch, and back tacking is a big deal. And probably 2.5 is the largest seam allowance that I would use here. Okay, so notice what I've done here. I've back tacked pretty good there. I'm going to go ahead and cut the threads. We're going to come down to about 1.5 inches, maybe. You have to decide how much of an opening you want to have. Back tack, really good here. Since there's going to be a lot of stress from me stuffing this, I'm going to stitch off the edge. You can pivot and turn if you want to. It's totally up to you. I am going to make sure to tack really good there. And when we turn here, I'm going to back tack a little bit because we've got a lot of stress there. And we'll stitch a little bit, get rid of those clips as we go. And again, if you need to pivot on your sewing machine, totally up to you. And we're going to lift up, back tack. Whoop. I find with this machine, if I don't hold that back tack down hard, that I don't feel like it back tacks for me. So, and it may just be me not knowing that machine. Okay, we left our opening here, so we're going to close this opening all the way here. So I do want to back tack here. Okay. All right, so we're going to cut the few threads that we had over here. We're going to grab all these pieces and we're going to go back over to the cutting table because let's talk stuffing. All right, we're going to turn this right sides out. Whoops, snip, snip, snip. Sorry, I knew I had a reason why I was grabbing those scissors. All right, grab your precision scissors. We want to snip, snip, snip. And this is going to have a whole lot of stress on it, so do not get too close to those threads. Again, this is where if you really wanted to double check, you know, just to be safe, then go ahead and you could stitch all the way around again. I'm going to cut off some of that excess on the corners just because I want when I turn it not to have so much. Right along here, I don't have any seam up here, but I am trimming that off just a little bit. And that's probably all the trimming I'm going to do. We're going to turn this right sides out. You would want to take the time to press this really well. I'm going to poke out the corners. I've done the corners that are near the opening. The others, where not corners, but those points, that's going to be the more important piece. Your rice, corn, beans, whatever it is you're going to be putting in here, they will fill out some, but the pressing that you do, the turning that you do will make a difference. I've seen the ones that I've made, you know, after years later, they still don't have the shape if I don't push those out. So grab your chopsticks. If you bought one of Philip's stilettos that I have on my website, this is a perfect time to use that. So you can pop those out. It's just made really well for that. So is this part here, pressing those seams. I pressed at the iron. I don't really like pressing at the iron. I like using his tool because it's got such a great flat edge. So if you have it, I really expect that you all will have great results using it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, since I'm not going to the ironing board, is I'm just going to pull these seams open just a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of finagle that and give that a good crease with my fingers. Take the time to press these. If you're going to do assembly line, then cut, 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 so, doing your pressing in between as well. So making sure that everything gives you some nice shape. Okay, so let's talk stuffing. And the other thing that I wanted you to have that I don't have is a funnel. So if you have a funnel, grab a funnel. And the funnel that I used was one that I got at one of the dollar stores, and it's really long and it's really thin. I don't want a really long, thin one, so grab a pair of junky scissors and cut off those longer funnels so that it's shorter and wider. And what you can do is open it up right here. Here's my opening, and we're going to stuff that funnel in, and then we're going to stuff it full. So where is my funnel? It's at home in my kitchen. And I stopped off at one of the, actually two of the dollar places to grab a funnel, and neither of them had funnels. So we're going to do what you do when you don't have a funnel. Okay, so you can use rice and beans. So these are lentils. These are beans. When I say beans, I mean softer beans. These are big beans, those kidney beans, and these are not comfortable on your head. You can just put them on your eyes and you'll feel, ugh, that's just too big and bulky. I'm going to throw those away. These, oh, they are just flexible. I love using these. I love using rice, but my favorite thing is deer corn. Deer corn that you can get at the hardware store, the feed store. Why do I like it? I just like the smell when you put it in the microwave. I don't know what it is. And some people do not like it. So you want to play with the different options that you use. You know, you have to decide texture, and you also have to decide smell. And there's a really great website, and I will try to remember to post a link in my write-up down below of this video. A woman compared corn, the deer corn versus the rice versus the lentils versus, you know, all these different things, walnut shells, and she did cherry pits and all kinds of things. If you really are using this for medicinal purposes, there are certain things that are much better heated up. There are certain things that are much better frozen in the freezer. So you want to kind of play with it. If you're just making it as a gift, then whatever you have at hand, which is probably going to be your rice. So rice would work just fine. So you kind of play with whatever it is that you have. What I want to point out too, though, is you can have some fun. So here is some lavender. I love the smell of lavender, and I love the idea of having lavender over my face. Some people cannot stand the smell of lavender, so you've got to decide, are you making these, selling these? You'll want to make sure if you're selling them that you've made all purple for lavender or all whatever white for corn, you know, or put a little label on there or something or directions with them so they'll know. Lavender smells even in the box that the eye mask came in, so you may even want to put it in like a Ziploc baggie or something that will help contain the smell. Eucalyptus, menthol, all these different things that are there for medicinal reasons may or may not help with migraines, with headaches, with cold, with sinuses, all those kinds of things. So if this is your kind of thing, then you may already know about which scents, which herbs you like and which ones you don't like. And there's a whole science there. I mean, this has been around longer than I've been around by, 1,000. So go read if it's something that you're into. You can, when you're pouring whatever it is, put a little bit of whatever scent in there. This is actual lavender itself, but they make the spritzes and the sprays that you can spray on there as well. If you don't want to, take a chance, then just fill it with something, rice, and then you can give the little bottle of the different smells if you want to, include that. And there are lots of companies out there that sell all of those things. You guys probably know about those. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to take, since I don't have my funnel, I'm going to take a piece of plastic. You can do cardboard, and I'm basically just going to roll this thing up. And I'm going to stuff that inside there, and I'm going to pour the rice in. We want this thing to be full, but not so full that I can't close it. Remember, we're going to be closing this side here. And when I close that, I'm basically just going to fold those two edges in, and we're going to top stitch. So I need to have enough room that I can get that closed when I go to stitch that down. So I'm going to open up my bag of rice. I recommend not doing this on a table like I have here. Do this over something where, like newspaper or something where you can kind of spread out. So if this stuff starts flying all over everywhere, you don't have a mess like I've got here. And again, recommend getting a funnel. If you're using what you have at home, hopefully you've got a funnel. I'm using what I have here at the office since all my materials that I wanted to bring didn't get brought with me today. So let's stick this inside of here. And this plastic that I have does the same thing that cardboard does, that newspaper will do, but I like this because it's a little sturdier. Okay, I've opened up my bag, and we're just going to start pouring. Now, if I were doing the lavender or any kind of scents inside of here, herbs inside of here, I'd stop and I'd put a little bit of that in, then I'd put more rice in, then I'd put a little bit more. So I'm just going to keep filling up till I feel like it's getting pretty full. Now, you want to buy big bags of whatever it is that you're doing. I mentioned the deer corn. I made the heat packs for your back and neck years ago, and boy, I went through a ton of deer corn. If you're going to do deer corn or anything that wild animals like, put them in those containers that have a lid that locks in that animals can't get in. I ended up with rats in my garage one year from all of those that I made. Okay, so you can see right here, this, I've got my funnel in really deep. This is starting to get full, so I'm going to pull my funnel out a little bit so I can keep pouring a little bit more. Where's my opening? And I'm going to take my time and watch, because I've got the point down here where I'm going to be closing up. So I don't want too much to not be able to get that closed. So I'm going to look to see how this looks. You can see this is really full. So I'm just going to kind of hold this, and then I'm going to give this a little bit. Okay, can you see how this looks? Pretty good. Once I stitch this closed, this is going to start to fill out and smooth out. So we're going to go to the sewing machine, and all I'm going to do is stitch this closed here. You can do a ladder stitch if you're going to sew by hand. You can do glue. I do not recommend it because we want this possibly to go in the microwave. And glues may not work with your microwave. So over to the sewing machine. And I want to hold this so that none of that rice goes flying. And I'm basically just going to stitch a good part of this side even before I actually have that opening. I'm going to back tack. All right, let's take a look at what we did. So I've got a white thread. You know, matching your thread is one of those things that would be nice. But white is good enough for my purple. Let's cut those threads off. And I'm going to cut those beginning threads off, and then let's stuff this inside of our pillowcase. This is the pillow, and this is our pillowcase. If you don't like what you've done, this is the time for you to go make changes to this, but I like the way this feels. Okay, so give this a good press before you do this, because once you put this inside of here, you're not going to be taking it out. We're going to pull this open. So basically it's just an overlapping pillowcase. I'm going to stick one side in, then the other side, and just kind of finagle it in there. And those points are going to go into the points. And then I'm going to pull that opening up over, and then we're just going to shake it out and flop it down and give it a good massage a little bit, good patting, kind of beating. And there we go. Is that cool or what? Now think about making these as gifts with embroidery. Remember, this side here is going to go on your face. If you want to do the other side, right here, this seam, we don't want this on our face. So if you are going to embroider anywhere, you can embroider right here. This seam on your face is not what it is that you want. So if you're going to embroider, you know, got my eyes on you, or sleep tight, or wink wink, or whatever it is, you know, you can do that here. But this guy here is the part that's going to be hitting your face, this smooth side, and this we want to be nice and soft and smooth. And again, flannel would feel great too. All right, so this guy here, with all of these, they're safe for the microwave because we don't have anything but 100% cotton thread. We don't have anything but 100% cotton fabric. And the materials we put inside of here are microwavable. But I want to show you an option. I don't know how many of you have migraines, how many of you have sinus headaches, those kinds of things. You can buy these at the dollar stores. And this is the perfect size to go right inside. What do? Well, it's freeze packed, stick it in the freezer. But this already has some coolness to it. Imagine putting this in the freezer and then putting this inside and placing this side down over your sinuses, over your eyes. Oof, how good would that feel? If you are having hot flashes, if you've got a burn, if you've got a child with a tummy ache, you know, you have to decide, are we doing heat or are we doing cold? I love the idea of things out of the freezer because I just think that coolness as a nice option gives you a really great option for using this. This part here can be thrown in the washer and dryer, not this. So this guy here, you may even want to make out of just plain old white cotton fabric, you know, whatever it is that you have, white flannel, whatever, and make a whole bunch of those, and then make this with eucalyptus. Then make another one with lavender, then make another one with nothing. And then give these guys here, and you've got a little note that's attached to this, you know, pinned on, and then these so that people can swap out and figure out, you know, what it is that is going to be helping them. And this too, grab one of these and stick that in the gift. Okay, so my template over here, Winter Designs Eye Mask. I've shown you the right way. Thank you, Renee Gaines. Finally, I've shown you the right way to make these eye masks. This, I think, is a wonderful Mother's Day, Valentine's, teacher gift. Whoever it is, make these and give these to somebody you care about. And if you choose some of those other fabrics for men, then it can be a cool masculine gift as well. I want to point out one other thing that is a very similar style to this, and it's more in the winter time. I make a hand mitt. This is a hand mitt right here, and there's a pocket right here, and this is the insert. So you basically have one template that does all of this, and then one template that does this and this. And this, it's done in the same way. You can stuff those with whatever. This can go in the microwave. When you put that in the microwave, by the way, I stitched and stitched and stitched. Those stitch lines there, you can see those. That just helps give this some stability so it doesn't all go flopping all over. This with the eye mask, it's going to go from the left side to the right side. If I didn't have these stitches here, it would all settle down at the bottom. When I put this in the pocket, And this is all flannel, and that flannel wants to grab my fabric because it's flannel. So you may want to do flannel on the outside and cotton on the lining. But when that's down in there on a cold day, or for those of you that have been sewing and sewing and sewing, and you've got arthritis, having that sitting, right now it's sitting in the palm of my hand, but maybe it's the outside of your hands. You have 2 of these on and you're sitting in front of the TV with these in your lap, and boy, would those feel good. Or if cold is what works for you, stick 2 of these in the microwave, make 2 of these, put your hands in. Or if you've got a backache or a stomach ache or a whatever, your wrist, carpal tunnel, then you can grab this and just hold. So the hand mitt is another option that works just like this. So you can do the same kind of technique for that. I mentioned that there are lots and lots of ideas out there for, you know, what you put inside of here. This was a book that I found years ago and I fell in love with it. This guy here, Making Herbal Dream Pillows. It's not in print anymore, but you can still find it online. The reason why I like this is if you have somebody that's really into this, this gives you Prophecy Blend, Holiday Dreams, Great Outdoors Blend, Vacation Bliss, 2 Traveling Dream Blends, Creative Dreams. If you are trying to get creative and you're just kind of in a funk, then use this Creative Dreams blend. It's going to tell you that a 1/2 cup of rose petals, a 1/4 cup of mugworts, the lavender flowers, these things put together in a little mix that you can put in your eye mask might just get you over that creativity hump. So you can find books like this out there. Again, this is out of print, but you can still find it online. And I love this idea. So I really look forward to seeing what you all do with this. And my guess is you already know what scents, what herbs you like, what helps out. But think about the little baby, think about the little child with the stomach ache, think about anybody with cramps. And the idea of the eye mask now going on the stomach for cramps would make all the difference in the world. So have fun with this. I can't wait to see what you do with it and to hear what you're putting inside and what works best for you. If you're interested in getting this template, it's called the eye mask. You can get it on my website, winterdesigns.com. So thank you, Zeke. Perfect. And you can see right now it's on sale. I don't know how long I'll leave it on sale, but even those pictures I need to update with the newest style. The pictures down at the bottom there, those are the ones that Renee sent me when she came up with this idea years ago. And again, thank you to Renee Gaines for coming up with this idea. Thanks, guys. Have a great time with this.